I'm Vinny Politan. Great to have you with us tonight here on Closing Arguments, Hour 2, as big as Hour 1. Chad and Lori Daybell, the Doomsday couple. We know all about them. They're accused in the murders of her children, his wife. There they are. She's already been convicted. He's now on trial for this triple murder, facing the death penalty. But as you may recall, Lori was arrested first. Tonight, we are going to listen to a jailhouse call that we've never heard before. First, joining us from outside the courthouse in Boise, Idaho, Court TV legal correspondent Kelly Craft. Kelly, big day. This is huge. Tell me, set it up for us, because we're going to play this call for everybody in just a moment. But give us the setup. Give us the context of this call.
Okay, I will, Vinny. So this is when Detective Hermosillo is on the stand. And so we're all anticipating this call because they have never been heard before, this phone call between Lori and Chad. Now, so picture this. Lori is sitting behind bars, Madison County Jail, in jail because of child endangerment, alleged child endangerment. Of course, she was told to produce the kids, and she wasn't able to produce the kids. Meanwhile, Chad Daybell, he's living his life. So Lori's behind bars. Chad Daybell's living his life. Think about all the people that are dead now as Lori is behind bars. Tammy Daybell, Chad's first wife, she's dead at this time. Tylee and JJ also dead, but investigators have not yet discovered their remains in Chad Daybell's yard. So that investigation into the missing children is still continuing. Also, Charles Vallow, Lori Vallow's fourth husband, he is dead, as well as Alex Cox. Now, Chad Daybell is claiming to Lori in this phone call that he can talk to Alex Cox. Even though Alex Cox is deceased, he's able to text Alex. Alex, per Chad, is telling Lori that Alex, her brother, misses her. And Lori starts to ask some questions. She's wanting assurances, saying at first when we got started with this plan, because they're talking in code, they're talking about a project, talking about a blueprint. So Lori is saying at first there's a 3% chance that we thought we were going to get in trouble, and now it seems like 100%. And she's telling Chad, I need some assurances that things are going to be okay. And he tells her, honey, I can see that things are going to be okay. How do you know this? Because I can see it. That's what Chad is saying. So interesting phone call, to say the least, as Lori sits behind bars. Chad's still on his way, but because of this phone call, this very phone call, it then prompted investigators to search Chad Daybell's property the very next day. And what did they find? The remains of JJ and Tylee.
I asked him what we'd talked about. He's very optimistic.
It was very optimistic for you, or he's very optimistic it could happen?
He's very optimistic. For both of us.
He doesn't know his own project timeline?
He said stick with it. To what he projected in that paper he wrote.
You know, house renovations always take longer than they think.
That's the problem.
I've been watching that Extreme Pools, and the people are like 3 months out. Like, when they estimated they'd have it done, and they're like, well, we had so many problems, we couldn't get to the backyard, we had to pull a crane over the house to get these huge rocks for the waterfall.
I can remember last summer, Taylor Hill Markstrand's parents moved into a trailer, like a camping trailer, in their driveway because they were going to build their house by the end of the year. Guess where they're still at?
Really?
They sold their house to their son. It's just a weird situation, but you're exactly right. Yeah, it takes forever.
Yeah, there's always something comes up. Well, we didn't know when we dug in your backyard, we were going to find whatever. And then they're like, we have to redo all the piping, and then we had trouble with this, and then something else happened. So, but they try to make it sound like it wasn't really that long, but it's always like, it's going to take 3 months. And then 3 months after that, they're like, okay, it took 6 months. You couldn't come in your backyard at all. And now it's not summer anymore. Now it's winter and your pool is finally done.
Right.
Mostly they do it in Florida and places like that. But. So he's optimistic about his construction problem, or construction
Problems.
not problems, but plan. His
Yeah,
construction plan, the blueprints are still intact.
it was good. It was good to talk. You know, I hadn't texted him in a while. So,
So he would still answer all my questions in the same way, you think, if I texted him?
I think you ought to write down some questions for him and maybe even mail them off and see what happens. See if he'll respond to you.
Remind him when you do text him back that at the beginning of this project, he said there was only like a 3% chance that there would be trouble from certain aspects. And then there's like 100% trouble because that's where it all started. So find out about that.
Right.
See what he has to say for himself on that. It's a combination of only, 5 problems.
I agree.
That was a big one.
It was a big one.
So my faith in those kinds of guarantees are lower.
Me too.
And beggars can't be choosers. I get that, but you know what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like I get to pick the colors of everything that I want. He's just going to have to figure it out.
Right.
Since I'm here and I can't be in charge of the project.
He's not gonna drop us for another project.
Well, can't he forcibly use a hand, punch some people in the face and get some things done? Some people in particular, like the 3%er person?
I don't think he wants to be violent, but things are going to work out. Not just because he says so, but because I know so. It's a marvelous plan. Slight
How do you know so?
hiccup. How do I know? It's been shown to me, honey. I've seen those beautiful eyes filled with tears as she sings to amazing groups of people. And I've seen that wonderful body dance to heavenly songs. Your purpose is only beginning. It's hardly begun. And it will be the pair. It won't be solo. And it's going to be incredible. You're tremendous, my love. I know that is a fact. I think you underestimate yourself. I'm not trying to give you a big head or ego because you don't have one. You just are spectacular, and the Lord is going to use those talents. You're on earth at this time for that purpose. I'll try to call you back so we can pray.
One day before they find and recover JJ and Tylee's remains in his backyard. They're giggling. What does this all mean? What's the jury going to think about this in this death penalty case? Let's bring in our think tank tonight. Joining us in studio, criminal defense attorney, entertainment attorney, former assistant DA in Atlanta, Daryl Cohen. Also with us tonight, criminal defense attorney Meg Strickler, and the man behind the glasses, criminal defense attorney Josh Schiffer. Daryl, what are you taking away from this? What's the jury going to take away from hearing these two?
They're not going to be able to reconcile the way this conversation went, and then the next day the bodies of the kids are found. It's not good. It doesn't matter, but it's going to help the prosecution. It's a good thing for the prosecution. I wish it were necessary. It's not.
It humanizes Chad Bell in a really bad way. So, and I'm saying it not like laughing, but that giggle he had is the most disgusting thing I've ever heard.
They're in love. They think they have a future together here.
Exactly.
Completely delusional.
But that helps the prosecution because it gives kind of a story, because you've been hearing about all these things from testimony, but to hear their own voices is probably the most compelling evidence. And they couple that with what they find in that yard.
How do you see this dynamic, Josh, between the two? What's the vibe you're catching here? Because, you know, once the murder charges are in, it's a little bit more difficult, right? It's a little more strained as they're digging up the remains in the backyard. But in this call, she's just in on child endangerment. It's not the most serious charge. And
it's really important. It's like Kelly was so illustrated for us. The moment of this call is as important as the contents of it. And yeah, I've got the ick something huge because these two, they sound like love-struck teenagers, and I'm taken aback by how quiet and calm and matter-of-fact they are, but I think that really is the depth.
Does he sound like the leader, the prophet here?
Yeah, it's unlike any, and I've listened to literally hundreds and hundreds of, I've never heard one quite like that, because you see she is such a succubus to him, and you know, gleaning off of him and using him to support her while she's locked up, and he's the light, and he's just sitting there pulling the strings. And it makes me go back to who's really the bigger crook in this.
I agree.
The answer is they.
I agree.
They.
Together, they were a toxic, scary combination, but to listen to them together, you can see the click together of just bad.
And the way Kelly set up the context here, I think, is so important, too, because all these people are dead at this point, right?
Five problems.
Right. You've got, like, dead children, a dead wife of 28 years, a dead husband. You've got the hitman. He's gone. Everybody's dead.
You got 5 problems. You got some solutions. You got the project. And I think that's really some of the illustration that I really attach to, because we've been living with this case for a long time now. A lot of us know a lot of these details. This was new. And I think that we can really put more life into this story because now we've heard them discussing what could be interpreted as a clear conspiracy. If you want to put on the conspiracy hat, this was 2 people talking very specifically about the 5 dead bodies, about the project, about the murders, about what they were doing together.
But each of them is guilty, regardless of whether the other one is or whether or not they conspired.
They're both disgusting.
Both worse than disgusting.
All right, think tank staying with us. Up next.
Text messages between Chad and Lori revealed in court today. What do they say? What do they prove? We'll break it down.
On the next episode of Accomplice to Murder.
This didn't seem like a random crime.
The shooting seemed personal.
Hemi Newman was certainly the last person who suspected something like this.
Hemi was manipulated.
They wanted to indict Andrea as the mastermind behind her husband's murder.
What clearly was an affair.
There was no affair. Who killed someone else's husband?
Accomplice to Murder with Vinnie Politan. All new episode, Sunday night, 8, 7 Central.
Only on Court TV.
And again, this is just 2 days after Charles Vallow is shot and killed?
Correct.
And then if you move to July 14th, if you would also read those messages into the record.
Okay, I'll start on the left, July 14th, 2019. Chad states, I need so badly to just gently kiss you for hours. And then the time is 8:33 p.m. Chad again, it would likely lead to other activities. Time is 8:34. Lori replies, likely or lucky at 8:34. Chad replies, it would luckily lead to nakedness.
I'll tell you what, that Chad Daybell, he can just turn a phrase. You can tell he's a writer, right? Wow. So we're getting some of these text messages now in the trial of Chad Daybell. Significant text messages. You have investigator Nicholas Edwards was on the stand today, and he had the pleasure, I guess, of reading the text messages to the jury. Let's bring back in Court TV legal correspondent Kelly Craft. Kelly, we got to hear some revealing text messages today.
Hey, Vinny, yeah, you're making me laugh out here. Okay, so yes, so these messages, and one in particular, if we want to go back, talk about Charles Vallow. So Charles Vallow is suspicious about this relationship that his wife is supposedly having with a man by the name of Chad Daybell. So what does Charles do? Well, he emails Tammy Daybell. Tammy Daybell is still alive at the time. She's a librarian at the school. Sends her an email saying that we'd like to talk in person or get together because I have some information about our spouses. He also, Charles Vallow, also sends Chad Daybell a message saying that he is knowledgeable about the relationship that his wife is having with him, Chad Daybell. And then there is another text in which Charles texts Lori and says to Lori that he is going to go to Idaho Falls to meet up with Tammy Daybell. Why don't we listen to that testimony?
On July 2nd, prior to Charles Vallow's death, Charles told Lori he was going to go to Idaho Falls to meet with Tammy. And Lori's text to Charles stated, quote, "She won't see you. She is my friend. She won't listen to you. Go ahead, you are ridiculous."
And then, Vinny, we all know what happened 2 weeks later. Charles Vallow ends up dead.
Shot by Alex Cox. They got busted. Charles busted him. He figured everything out. Okay, there were also some text messages from, I think, Chad to Lori, where Chad is like calculating Tammy's death.
Yes, in this particular text message, he's saying that her death percentage is rising. And so prior to this text, Lori was texting Chad saying, hopefully we will be together soon. And Chad was reassuring her, like he always did, saying that is part of the plan, and then proceeds to say that his wife, Tammy Daybell's death percentage is rising. Let's listen to some of that testimony.
Chad again sends Lori a text message. It says, yes, quote, yes, we might need to release a little steam when we talk. Anyway, this is the chart that checks what percentages mortals are still in their body. It worked for my friend's wife who died, my neighbor, George Bush, Stanley Lee, etc. I kind of forgot about it because we've been dealing with zombies and demonic entities. But this afternoon, Tammy said she felt lightheaded, as if her body and spirit weren't connected. Goes on to say, quote, I got the inspiration to go back to my original death percentages that helped us track Charles, Ned, etc. Tammy is very close. Her percentage has fallen steadily since Hiplos left. It's encouraging.
So yeah, Chad is telling Lori then that it's encouraging because Tammy Daybell, his wife's death percentage, is on the rise, Vinny.
This is unreal. This is devastating, I think. He's also describing Tammy now as being demonic.
He is, and even backtrack a little bit. So Zulema Pastenes, remember her on the stand? So she was part of their inner circle, and John Pryor in cross-examination was trying to say, well, you know, Zulema was a good soldier. She was kind of helping facilitate the affair between Chad Daybell and Lori Vallow, and the investigator was just kind of like, yeah, it seems that way. And then there's this other message that talks about Tammy Daybell becoming demonic. Let's listen to that.
First text message, hello, sweet angel. Big news about Tammy. Please let me know if you are awake and can talk. I love you. and then 2 emojis. Shortly after, the short version is that she has been switched. Tammy is in limbo, and a level 3 demonic entity named Viola is in her body. It happened about 10 p.m. and was done by Tammy's sister, Sam, who I always knew was 3D, but it turns out she's multiple creation.
Yeah, so there's that text message. And I want to talk just a little bit about John Pryor, Chad Daybell's defense counsel, because one of the things that he kept getting across today and has gotten across throughout this entire trial, whether it was the phone call today, the jailhouse phone call between Lori and Chad, or these text messages, he asks whoever is on the stand, tell me where it says we are going to kill people. Where does it say, or where did they say on that phone call that we're going to kill the children? And whoever is on the stand has to say, well, that's not what it says. And then John Pryor said, well, so really this is just you speculating and thinking to go forth with your narrative is what you want to have be the situation in this case. The investigator said today, Investigator Edwards, he said based on his experience, he's pretty certain he knows what's happening here.
All right. Kelly Craft joining us live from Boise on a big day, by the way, Kelly. I don't know if you're aware, but today is the 1-year anniversary. Kelly Craft joined your front row seat to justice 1 year ago. Great to have you.
That's right, Vinny. Thank you.
That means you got to stay another year.
Thank you
You haven't been
much.
paroled.
Oh, okay. Thanks, Vinny.
Kelly Craft in Boise tonight. Let's bring back in our think tank, Daryl Cohen, Meg Strickler, Josh Schiffer. So he's calculating the death percentages. Meg, do you think he told Tammy? Like, hey, maybe, you know.
Yeah, we think you're going down. You're not.
Like your death percentage is going up.
I mean, cut me a break. And I feel badly when you have a case like that and the cross-examine questions are useless like that. Like, what do you do? But most of us know, just sit down and shut up. Because when you're going to ask, well, they didn't talk about actually killing them. Cut me a break. I mean, you just look stupid.
I really need to know the details about the other levels of demons.
Right?
Like, really, I need some extrapolation on this. There's clearly some academic papers that are available that we've not had the opportunity to review because this is absolute insanity. And that's really what the illustration is for the jury. You're trying this case, and you've got to look at this. You don't even need words. You show this kind of discussion to the juror and just look at them. They're picking up what you're putting.
They get it. Daryl, what does this do for if he's convicted, the penalty phase, where he's facing the death penalty, if he is like anxiously watching the death percentage for his wife of 28 years, the mother of all his children, rising?
I would say that his death percentage is rising astronomically.
Correct.
Because he is not going to be able to stop it. He has started something over which he has no control, and here we go. And Ludacris, I'm sorry, Ludacris, the recording artist, I love you, but this is ludicrous. You cannot cross-examine him because the best thing to do is just sit down, shut up.
The phrase that pays with this is going to be callous indifference. And when you're really, grinding down into the brass tacks, how someone acted during a charge where the death penalty applies, it's got to be that indifference to life. That cruelty.
That's what we heard in the phone call.
Yes,
we heard that in the phone call.
And that's exactly the point. The state gets to come back time and time again. Look at, I was just talking about his wife's death percentage. This was someone who was cruelly, casually, remotely talking about the death of his wife with his mistress. How sick and twisted is that?
Yeah, and then, I keep coming back to, like, why? And, yeah, we know it's the sex, and they wanted to be together. Why don't they get divorced? Well, I think from his perspective, for Chad Daybell, he has no money. I mean, you guys got that piece of property. He's self-publishing books. He's got a couple of nickels that he can rub together. But if he gets divorced, he'll have one nickel. He won't even have two to rub together, right?
Life insurance.
She might have done okay with a divorce because Charles Vallow was very extremely successful, but she thought she was getting $1 million life insurance.
I'm surprised we haven't gotten into his secret Bitcoin, hoard or some other stuff, because it really wouldn't surprise me that these are the kind of people that make plans. And he's rolling the dice every morning. He gets up and he sees his situation, and guess what? Now he's got the pretty blonde lady he's always wanted.
Yeah.
He's just got to solve these
that's the
five
sex
problems.
Well, it was easy to solve the 5 problems. Poof, they're dead. Poof, they're dead. And so it goes. I think in his case, wave and say goodbye.
Yeah, that's the blueprint. The blueprint now is the death penalty. He's going to get it.